I think we can go ahead and get started. This is a Subcommittee 1, Appropriation Subcommittee 1, and we're here to listen to EdTV as well as the Library Commission. So is anybody here from EdTV? I think Alicia and Tara are here. If you want to come on up. And you can either go to the podium or you can come up here, whatever you all feel comfortable doing. You can sit at the end of the tables, podium, whatever you all feel like you want to do. That's fine. All right, anytime you're ready, if you want to go ahead. And turn your microphone up. There we go.
Good morning. Good afternoon. My name is Alicia Harris, Chief Financial Officer at Mississippi Public Broadcasting. Thank you for having us here today. We are, for our FY22 budget, we are requesting an increase, a restoration of general funds that we lost from FY20 to FY21 in the amount of $226,423. We intend with this increase to replace end-of-life equipment in the following departments. I apologize, my shortness of breath. Our digital education network, they are able to connect teachers from those school districts who have a lack of resources with those school districts that have better resource school districts for offering virtual education for existing students without having to employ a full-time teacher. The equipment for that department is end of life, and it'll cost approximately $200,000 to replace that equipment. The DIN was originally developed to allow educational opportunities in important STEM subjects as their peers in those more affluent school districts. The other department is the Technical Services, our Master Control Unit, which is the backbone of Mississippi Public Broadcasting. It is the hub for all content distribution that the agency can send throughout the state. We need to replace our uninterruptible power supply to prevent hardware damage that costs approximately $120,000, as well as the existing mass logging system and confidence monitoring system, which ensures that we're transmitting the correct content at all sites, which will cost the agency approximately $50,000. The restoration of funds of the $226,000 we have requested will not fully fund both projects, but it will allow us to replace the largest need for those departments.
Is that it? I'm sorry, that was quick. Okay.
We're requesting $550,000 in capital expense funds for maintenance and repair needs for the tower sites. These include the replacement of generators, site generators for each tower, replacement of transmitters, and FCC required lighting. The towers are instrumental in disseminating information across the state during the pandemic, most specifically our MPB 5th channel that we have been able to coordinate and partner with Mississippi Department of Education to provide instructors, and they have been doing lessons from across the different grade levels to help prevent that backslide of education during the pandemic. And Tara Wren, she's our Department Director of Education, and she will give you more information on that.
Thank you. Greetings. Just to share a little information about two things that Alicia spoke about, where our towers are very needful across the state, particularly during this time of the pandemic. I am Director of Education for Mississippi Public Broadcasting. One thing that we're very happy that we were able to do this year, starting in April, was partner with the Mississippi Department of Education in a greater way and start a new 5th instructional channel. This new channel is called MPB Classroom TV. And what this channel does allows us to help fill a gap that we're, particularly in our rural areas where students who can't get to school, where they're forced to learn virtually. It allows our signal, which goes across the entire state and has the potential to be in every household, it allows us to put these lessons, very necessary lessons, in front of students on that old rabbit ear TV that we are accustomed to and grew up with PBS. So how MDE was tasked with developing and coming up with the most important lessons that needed to be taught first. And so it was a very hard task to determine to teach K through 12 on a 5th channel all at one time. So we have kind of grandfathered in, or will be grandfathering in as we go and building on the channel. So we started out with phonics. They would do lessons in English learning, early learners, early childhood, math, science, English, and we have some other content from other PBS stations that we're also running on to fill those gaps in history and science. And so those lessons locally are being recorded in our studio since early May, maybe, perhaps. And at this point, the teachers and literacy coaches have been coming to the studio where we are able to socially distance and take the necessary CDC precautions. And at this point, we have 159 or 60 lessons that have been recorded that are specific to our students in Mississippi, the need to them. And MDE vetted these documents. They created this content, and so this is fresh content that not only lives on this 5th channel, but we also created a website where it can be on demand as well. So if they miss it, they can go to the website. So those towers that Alicia talked about and that funding that we need to keep those going, this station, this channel, which we plan to keep going far past this school year, where these will be lessons that will live on forever and we will continue to add to them, it's very necessary that we can be able to help students in that way. In addition to the MPB Classroom TV, Alicia talked about the Digital Education Network, which we call the DEN. A teacher can be in Natchez, Mississippi, teaching 500 students at the other end of the state, hundreds of miles away. This particular service was developed or created initially to help those schools in rural areas who did not have students or teachers, certified teachers, to come in. As you all know, certified teachers in the math and sciences are pretty hard to find and keep sometimes, particularly in those rural areas. And so it saves the district money. We have a pool of teachers. We have served up to 40 school districts before. Right now, because of COVID, it's wavering a little bit. Some schools are in, some schools are out. But it helps those students to graduate on time when there's not a certified teacher. Now, when it comes to the pandemic that we are in, right now this service is able to occur within the school building if they're in the building. We're hoping to upgrade our equipment, which is end of life. We've had that equipment for about 12 years or so. Some of it more than that, longer than that. And what we've been told is if we do not upgrade, then we're going to be continuing to patch and patch and patch until something's not available. And then we lose this most valuable service which MPB has offered to students and teachers in school districts for the last 25 years or so. So that upgrade and the restore of those funds would be greatly appreciated because we want to continue to serve those districts who don't have those teachers. And even with this upgrade, we'll be able to go to a cloud-based system, which they don't have to be in the classroom. They can be outside of the classroom. In addition to those education programs, we want to highlight also today that MPB Think Radio, we air 24 Mississippi-specific programs. And those programs help people to learn about MPB, about Mississippi, about the happenings of Mississippi, the people of Mississippi, the greatness of Mississippi. And one particular program that is very, very important is one that we partner with the University of Mississippi Medical Center, and it's called Southern Remedy. It happens every Friday morning at 11 o'clock a.m. It's a 1-hour health call-in show. This particular radio show has a different doctor in every day. One day it's focusing on kids, one day on women, one day on, behavioral health. So different things every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 12 to noon. And I would tell you, we did a testimonial campaign about a year or so ago, and it was amazing how the folks that listened to Southern Remedy says, hey, that show changed my life, or it saved my life. I'll give you one example. A woman from the coast said that she was at work one day and was having some symptoms in her chest. You know, we all have had chest symptoms or what have you. And she said her coworker told her, I think you need to check that out. Based on the symptoms that you have just said, I heard on Southern Remedy radio that those symptoms are associated with a heart attack. That afternoon, she had a procedure done. This is documented, and you know, that's just the kind of life-saving thing that program brings. And not just Southern Remedy, but I know some of you probably garden, you know Felder, he teaches you how to raise those greens and cook those okra, raise okra and things like that. But those shows are very beneficial, Mississippi specific, helps us Mississippians throughout the state. And so I just wanted to highlight that. Also, one more thing, MPB television, you know, we create Mississippi Roads with Walt Grayson, and it tells all about Mississippi. I traveled all across the state for the last few years with my team in education, and one thing that I heard over and over again was from people who were not from Mississippi and moved from Mississippi. They said, hey, I have learned all I need to know, or a lot of things that I need to know, from listening to MPB Think Radio, whether it be from Walt Grayson or Look Around Walt Grayson or Next Stop Mississippi. So I just wanted to highlight those key programs that help us tell Mississippi stories across the state, and also those educational programs where we can be helpful to our students as they matriculate through their educational process. We have many more, but I know we don't have all day for me to sit here and talk about it. Thank you for listening, and thank you for having us.
Thank you. And I did have the opportunity to go watch you video one of those educational programs. I think it was in December. Brought 2 teachers in, and they did a great job. It's a lot of work, and it's a great program, what you guys are doing, so I appreciate that. Regarding the numbers, let me ask you, the $500,000 that was appropriated last session for the McHenry Tower, is that maintenance occurred? Has that been replaced? Where's that status of that, if you can tell me?
Yes, sir. The $500,000 that were appropriated were spent and used. We were able to buy a new antenna for the McHenry Tower, as well as some maintenance needs that needed to be done there. The new tower, it took us a while with the pandemic and the repack project that the Federal Communications Commission is doing. Took us some time to get a crew there to be able to remove the old antenna and install the new antenna. Okay. We're finally able to do that, and then we're able to take care of some of the maintenance needs down at McHenry.
And just to make sure I get your request correct, you want $550,000 for more maintenance and repair and towers and so forth.
Yes, sir.
$226,000, I guess, just for restoration of technological services. What is that? I was looking at your request sheet. What is that about?
That's the restoration of the general funds that we lost from FY21, FY20 to FY21. Yes, sir.
And then $50,000 for your master control updates, as well as $120,000 to your UPS. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's what we would be able to use, the restoration of those general funds left. We would be able to apply them to these 2 programs.
Okay. All right. That's all I have at this moment. Senator Hobson has some questions for you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, ladies, for being here. Talk to me for just a moment about the work that you have done on the educational end that you mentioned, the teachers, teaching some of the certified teachers for some of your STEM courses, et cetera. Are you collaborating with the Department of Education on this?
Yes, sir. We've been collaborating and meeting since April 1, since the beginning of the pandemic, and when we started talking about developing the 5th channel. And so MDE has played a very integral part in developing the curriculum. They write the curriculum, they come in and record the lessons. They work closely with our television department each week. They have a schedule where they're scheduled to come in to record those lessons. They're usually in from, the bulk of the day. And so they determine which lessons. Like I said, we started out with phonics because that was the most need for our early learners in the state based on their determination. They have recorded lessons in math, They've recorded some English reading, science lessons, social studies lessons, and so those will start airing pretty soon. We launched the 5th channel on October the 5th, and so we're stacking and we're continuing to add as they record and we can get them edited. And like I said, we have about 159 lessons that have been recorded to date, and they're still coming into the studio, and the plan is to have them to continue to come in throughout the rest of the school year and then pick up again.
Okay, is that part of the continuing dialogue that you're going to have with them to make sure that we're utilizing our new computers and connectivity to be able to administer our students' educational opportunities through the distance learning program that we've got?
Yes, sir. So one part of that, that's a two-part answer. One part is that we're preparing right now to do some additional training, messaging to parents, to teachers, to our end users for the most part, to let them know how to use this, how to make this useful at home and in the school, along with the equipment that has been purchased for each student in the state. And also with the DN, which is the very virtual piece of it, we're going to be doing some training and getting some more messaging out as we move forward about how they can connect with those particular lessons as well.
Is there any cost-sharing measures in place with MDE right now? Have y'all discussed, are they paying you for some of the work that you're doing, or you're paying for anything that they're doing to facilitate your work?
Well, historically, they have given us some money for the DN just historically. Doing this new venture with the classroom television, they are working through creating a little grant for us where we'll be able to have get some ongoing funding from that. I'm not sure how much, and I haven't been in on those conversations lately, but that is in the works. Last I spoke with Dr. Oakley and Ronnie.
Okay. One other question or line of questioning would be related to your viewership or accessibility to people. I know things are changing right now in Mississippi. For instance, a lot of people, traditional modes of communication have changed. A lot of people are streaming. Is MPB, do you stream right now? And if so, who gets the streaming? Or are you antenna primarily only, or digital? What's your format to get to? It may be different for schools, but to get to individuals, to get to families, how are you getting to them?
For the MPB Classroom TV?
Just MPB
Just in
in
general.
general.
Oh, we use digital broadcast, and so we have analytics for social media, our website. We have an education-specific website. We also have just MPB online, the main website, and then, of course, the broadcast television.
Do you keep up with your viewership or subscriptions? So can you show us a trend or a pattern as to whether it's going up or down or flat, so we have an idea about, accessibility to programs?
Well, because we have, 9 stations across the state, and Nielsen does not, it's very expensive for us to pay for Nielsen. We don't do for television, so we don't have those numbers. But we have a lot of anecdotal information and data, and of course we're able to, because we created a website, like for the DN is on the website, have some content there, and also MPB Classroom, and so we're able to measure and have some analytics through those types of platforms digitally. But as far as broadcast, we have to determine, be based on what we're hearing and the feedback that we're getting.
Okay. Well, when you get an opportunity, if you could get Chairman DeBar any information you have about those two things. One, the information as it relates to MDE programming, and two is anything that we can track that would help us to know on viewership, subscriptions, whether it be online or television or radio, whatever you've got, that's beneficial for us.
We can certainly track radio. I left radio out, but they certainly follow with TapScan. They are able to follow that, and there are some good numbers there for sure. We do have podcasts, and one of the interesting numbers that we had, we were going to be at about a million downloads by the end of last year. Was that it, Alicia? On radio for several of our podcasts. It was at the top nationally. So we do have those numbers, and we'll be able to get those for you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your work, too.
Sir, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Question for you. As regarding the educational shows that you're recording and so forth, do you have any information on districts that are using them or teachers that are using them in different classes, or are you able to track the usage of those videos that you're recording?
We're just starting to get a little momentum there. Our focus has primarily been on creating the content and getting the content out and getting the messaging out. But yes, I can certainly tell you that I filter many calls from principals and superintendents over the course of a week. MDE even more so, our team that's working there. And so I can give you some feedback on that as well. Calling, they ask how to use it, what's the best way to use it, how can my teachers use it. Even, for example, you know, you create something new, you don't really know all the kinks that you have to work out. And so once we had launched it, I received a call from Lee County principal there and said, hey, my teachers want to use this, but can you do this, this, and this? Can you attach the standards to the schedule, which we had not done? Can you give a little more description on this way or that way? And that was really helpful to us, because if a teacher wants to plan in advance for their lesson plan, then they need to know what to go look for, you know, or they want to be able to query based on the standards number. And so we're working on implementing that as we speak, along with MDE. And we put out a schedule every week for teachers and people at large on our website, on social media. So yes, we are definitely.
That was my next question. You answered that, is how do we, are school districts aware of this and so forth? And it sounds like they are.
Yes.
I want to make sure it's advertised like it needs to be, because what you're doing as far as these shows is really good. And because I went to the website and I looked at it myself, and I watched a few of them. And the teachers that come in and do this are really, really top notch and so forth. And so by going back to the appropriations part of it, the maintenance of the towers and the transmitters is really vital to getting those shows those broadcasts. And
Yes.
Is that correct? Would you say that? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Senator Norwood, I think you had some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think a couple of my questions already been answered, but do you have a dollar value that you would put to the partnership that you have with MDE?
It's invaluable. Do we have a dollar value? In terms of cost and related to, we do have an annual cost of a service where we had to monitor a service cost. ProTrack is one of those costs that we have. I can get it to you. Alicia can help me get that back to you. But there are annual fees, 2 annual fees that we have to pay for sure. And then there are some for programming and just having the channel on the air, some licensing fees perhaps that there's included in there. And right now, because we're getting the content from MDE and other PBS sources, there's no cost of content right now, so that's not a cost that we're having to look at. But perhaps some of the maintenance and back again to the towers, those are the costs associated with that. But in terms of working with MDE, you know, they're gonna hopefully, you know, we don't have to pay them or for any of that service that they provide to us. Is that what you're asking?
Now, you said you had 159 or 160 lessons?
Recorded, yes, sir.
Recorded. Now, and I heard you say that just a school district in Natchez, if the teacher in, say, Sharkey County, if they're using the same lessons, can they share in that?
Are you talking about the Classroom TV or the Digital Education Network? The one with the
Classroom.
Classroom TV?
Right.
Can they share the lessons of?
Right.
Yes, those lessons on the channel can be shared in any school district across Mississippi.
As long as the lessons, as long as the same lesson they
Ye-
teaches. I'm just thinking in terms of like distant learning that they may not they just said the teacher, you may not have a teacher in Sharkey County, but you have a teacher in Natchez, and the coordinated, the school district can coordinate and make sure that the students in Sharkey County are getting the basic same information as though if they had you know, a teacher, or they may have a facilitator.
A
but they may have-
facilitator in there.
Right.
Now, I think you're speaking more about the Digital Education Network.
Okay.
And so how that works is, right, and I didn't say that, we have a nice, great relationship and partnership with Delta State University on this project, because we have 4 teachers at Delta State who teach a lot of the courses across the state. So for instance, if there's a classroom in Natchez, in, let's say, Algebra 1, and in Sharkey County, Issaquena, some of the, Sunflower County, they don't have a science teacher and they really need a science teacher. That teacher in Natchez can log in through our hub network at MPB and teach all of those students there in those other 3 counties and share the same content, share the same curriculum. That can happen.
Okay. Now, and there's a extra cost, is that being utilized?
That's been, we do that every day, yes, sir. And that's a big piece of the restore funds that we are asking to be restored, because that's the equipment on that service that's out of life, end of life for the most part. If a piece breaks down, if they can't patch it anymore, then we're down in that service. And right now, we're keeping our fingers crossed that everything keeps going.
Okay.
And if we, one thing that we can, if we get that money restored, we're able to go to a cloud-based system. That way we won't have to, of course, worry about the outdated equipment, but we also won't have to worry about hardware. It'll all be in the cloud.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator Norwood. Any other member have any questions? Senator McCon?
Just very quickly, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that. Thank you for coming, ladies. Last year, I remember there was some talk about some digitizing of old tapes and what have you. Did that get started, or is that still going to be part of your ask, or what's going on there?
No, sir, we did not get to start that during fiscal year '20. Currently, these are more important needs that we have. So the records that we are still currently housing in our library are continuing, unfortunately, to deteriorate. So at some point, hopefully, we will be able to get some additional funding for that. But the master control and our digital education network, those had to be our priority needs for FY22.
One last question there. These shows that are going online, not online, on the rabbit ears, and I know you're recording them. What is the ongoing plan? Are we looking at keeping this 5th channel going, and next year we just replay the same things? Or are we looking at putting them online so they're downloadable for these teachers and parents, or what?
So that's a great question. We have been talking about sustainability quite a lot now that we are free from playing in it. By the time we get to, let's say, June, like right now, they're coming in, recording the most important ones, and they might have, for instance, there's a phonics lesson, and in that series of lessons, there could be 5 lessons. Well, we don't have all 5, we might not have all 5 of them now, but we'll have all 5 of them, say, June. Same thing for an algebra lesson or social studies lesson or series. By the time June comes, we will have a series of, lessons within different grade levels, and we could really organize it as a library and run it on the channel, not just kind of mix match here and there, but we can run it as a series over a course of days, because some days we do rerun based on the need. So that's one thing. One way we're planning to sustain it is to be able to say, hey, you can go here, early childhood teachers, and get all these pre-recorded lessons. They're all there in order, and you can pull them on certain days, view them on certain days. So that's one way. The other way goes back to Senator Norwood, what you were asking me about with the DN, because we have those additional teacher lessons being taught through Delta State University and some of the other teachers in the pool with that particular network, we're planning to record some of those lessons and put those, because those lessons could be quite different from what our teachers who are coming in right now doing. So those are 2 plans for sustainability. Also, we have folks like the Bauer Foundation who have done the Move to Learn, that we're partnering with them. They hopefully will be creating more videos related to health-related videos. I can't tell you the number of folks who across the state who know that we have, and people outside of our state who have learned about our fifth channel, who want to provide lessons in various areas, whether it's health-related, social, emotional lessons. I also got a call from New Stage Theater. They used to offer lessons, classes within their theater there that they're not able to offer anymore. Hey, can we come in the den and record some of those lessons? Well, of course you can. Let's figure out how we can do it. And by the way, we're going to put that on the channel as well. We're also thinking about and have talked to MDE about professional development. There's been some research done in videos. You show a child a video, they go home and watch the video, and then when you come back to the classroom, you can teach it, and you can answer the questions that they have by what they watched. And so there's some research done on that that shows the relevancy of watching a video. And so that's how we plan to use, those are a few ways that we've been talking about. We've also been talking to C-Spire. They want to do some coding classes. And so perhaps there's an opportunity there to do coding classes and put some some science in the classroom or in the home on that channel. So, yes, sir. Sustainability is at the top of our mind right now.
All right, any other questions? Well, thank you, ladies, for coming in. We appreciate it. You did a great job. I'm certainly will be in touch. If you'll provide those things to me that Senator Hobson had mentioned, I would greatly appreciate it. And if there's anything else comes up, just feel free to give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And next up, do we have anybody from the Library Commission present? I do see them.
Good to see you. Good afternoon.
Hello. How you doing? Good, good.
Hey, how are you?
That chair may be, some are down a little bit lower than others. So that one, yeah, I always switch.
Senator, good to see you again.
Good, all right?
Not sure.
That's not bad?
It's good. It's all good.
It's not, this one here is better, I can move it around.
These are low chairs. I need a high chair.
Well, good afternoon. We're glad to have you here. If you would, just introduce yourselves, and I think we have some information already, but if you go ahead and we're ready to hear from you. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon. I am Hewlin Bivens, and I am the director of the Mississippi Library Commission. And with me today is Jennifer Peacock. Jennifer is the director of the Administrative Services Division and bureau chief for that division at the Library Commission. We appreciate, obviously, the opportunity to tell our story, as will every other department of state government. We all are interested in the same thing, which is the care and nurture of the citizenry of our state. We play a role in that, just like schools does, just like health services does, just like roads, all of us working together to achieve a common goal. There are a lot of things that I could talk to you about. I wish I had more than 15 minutes, and I know that I don't really have 15 minutes because you're going to want to ask me a question or two. So I am going to try to cut to the chase, as they say. You have a sheet from us that has been provided today. About halfway down, it's going to address the items that we really, really need. Obviously, we would like the entirety of the budget request as made. We are respectful and understand that revenues are not what they were in past years. We would also, however, point out that the Library Commission has a diminished fund over the last few years, and we're really back to where we were 10, 12 years ago. There have been budget cuts not only from state dollars, but from federal dollars. Part of the reason we lose federal dollars is because of a formula that the federal government has that takes into account a maintenance of effort. That maintenance of effort formula basically carries over a multiplicity of years, such that if you have a shortfall, as we have had in the past, FY18 being our major one, that still carries in our formula for a 4-year period. Each time we go down again, it is recalibrated by the federal government, and we stand to possibly lose additional funds. If you look at the bottom half of the sheet, we have isolated for you the things that we really, really need. This is not rhetoric here. This is important dollars for us. The first is to restore our general funding at the level of 21. That would be a cost factor of $227,731. That is really important to us because that is the backbone of the Library Commission budget. We're going to lose $165,000. That loss is due to the federal formula of maintenance of effort, and that loss is affecting the ability for the commission to give grants to our public libraries to do independent programs. The third thing that we mentioned that we really need funded is the $105,336 for health insurance premiums for employees. Pursuant to the Mississippi Code 251515, we, the Library Commission, required to pay 100% of this cost. Obviously, if that is a cut in our budget, that cut is going to severely affect everything that we do. The last thing that we say that we really, really need, and probably the last time I'll say really, really, is the fact that when the snapshot was done last year, we were one vacancy, and we need that pen restored. And we believe strongly that that's an important pen because it's one of our IT specialists and works with the program of us working directly with the public libraries, where we go to the public library, we check their wiring, we do rewiring as may be necessary to make the library building as responsive to connectivity issues as it possibly can. To further enhance the conversation that we're having with regard to what we need, Ms. Peacock's going to talk to you about the upper part of the sheet. Thank you.
So one of the things that I was explaining to Helen when we were talking about coming today was it's very important to give y'all a little bit of history on what's happened to us in the last couple years, because sometimes what you're seeing on your end on paper is not quite the whole story. So when we go back to last year to FY21, we did lose $328,920 in funding. I know things were crazy last year and the pandemic threw everything off, and I know last minute y'all were passing bills just trying to get everything going, and there wasn't a lot of conversation. So in our general funds, we did lose that $328,000 cut, and we absorbed that. What you might not have seen is, though, we also lost $395,000 in federal funding. Back when Helen was talking about the maintenance of effort, that is a huge factor for us. When those cuts came back in 16, 17, and 18, they're hitting us now. This is where our loss of maintenance of effort is coming from. So you were able to fund us in FY20 for our loss, but in 21 last year, we did not get that funding, so we also lost that entire amount as well. Another thing that I'm not sure that you're all aware of is, as he said, pursuant to 25-15-15, the Library Commission is the only state agency that has this in code where we have to pay the life insurance premiums of the full-time employees in all public libraries. So that's 795 employees across the state. So I know that in normal years, for instance, like this year, there was an increase in health insurance premiums. Normally, you go in and you fund all the state agencies because we have to pay this for our own employees, but in our case, we also have to pay it for all of the public library employees that work full-time as well. So that's a double hit to us, and for that, it was $61,000 because it was only half of last year. So in reality, MLC lost $785,000 last year. We have a very small budget, so that's a huge, huge hit to us. So now as we roll into 22 and we talk about what that looks like, our state fund recommendation to lose is the $227,731. So here we roll again into another year after just experiencing massive cuts, and we're going again with cuts. Luckily for us, the maintenance of effort works off of a 3-year formula. It's continually a rolling average of 3 years. So this year, our loss will only be $165,000. It's not as drastic, but it is if we lose it too, on top of all the money we've already lost. And what this money does is, when we lost last year's $395, we had to completely cut our grant program to all the libraries. Where that significantly hurt during pandemic years are they're not able to buy computers. Wi-Fi hotspots was a huge thing. You had all the schools, kids at home. Some of them don't have any internet access. What do? They were able to go to the libraries and check out Wi-Fi hotspots so that they could go and do their schoolwork and their virtual learning. Significant reduction in that. Not all schools handed out computers, so we were able to, with that federal funding, to allow libraries to buy computers. So for some of those children who didn't have the ability to have a computer at home, they could come get the computer and the Wi-Fi hotspot and go home and do their learning. So when this federal funding gets cut like this and we keep losing it, we're losing out on that, which is very, very critical in the rural communities. Very critical to see. The health insurance premiums coming up for 22, because it's a full year, that's another $105,000. So if we don't get funded that money, again, that's another cut, because it's mandatory that we have to pay that. So we have to swap it out and cut somewhere else in our budget when we don't get that. So the way it's going with the current LBO recommendation, we would be losing not just the $227 that you see, but we would actually be losing almost $500,000. So I wanted to just give y'all a little bit of this history so you could see the importance to us when it comes to these cuts. It looks like we're kind of taking our fair share. I know like this year I believe it was a 2.5, Charlie, when y'all were doing the numbers, but as you can see, ours is really double in some of these cases because of the federal side that we're losing. And every time we continue to get cut, it's going to continue to push that maintenance of effort issue. When we came before you 3 years ago it was, and that was our first mention to you of having this maintenance of effort loss. It was after the major cuts in those years. And we came to you then and said, for 3 solid years in a row, we're going to ask you for funding to make up this maintenance of effort shortage. And as I said before, you were able to fund it the first year. Thank you very much. This year was not funded. We're asking for that $165 to fund 21 coming up. We won't come back to you in 22 and ask for any funding because it will be such a small amount. However, as we've discussed, we've had cuts again. So it's now going to push now in 24, we're going to have to come back again because we are constantly, every time we get a cut, it's throwing us out of our maintenance of effort. And we didn't have this problem historically as much because the budgets were considerably larger. But now our funding has gone down to the point that there's no playroom any longer. There's no way to make up that difference. Our total state funds are at $9.1 million now. Again, mandatory in our bill, we must pay that health insurance premium and part of the life insurance premiums, which totals $3.6 million. We have a mandatory expense to pay Magnolia, which is the database that all schools and colleges are using to help with their educational needs as well. That's $1 million. For those of you who have been around for a while, you're familiar with the Personnel Incentive Grant Program, which is very critical to the libraries, and that's funded at $3.3 million. So as I stated, our general funds are at 9.1 million, and I just quoted to you 7.9 million of expenditures. We don't have the general funds left. I haven't even gotten to salaries of employees, which is more than what's left. So we're already using that federal funding to have to come in and compensate. Now we're losing that too. We are at a point that we can no longer keep up with that maintenance of effort. It's going to start continuing to roll after next year. Every year we're going to come back in with more and more losses. So we're losing your state funding, plus we're losing our federal funding. So I was hoping that just showing you a real simplistic term on this sheet and explaining that our picture, at least to us, feels like it looks a little different. We do have a lot of mandatory expenses in our appropriations bill and a very small budget to work with. So I hope this explains it a little easier where you can follow.
Thank you. Let me ask you, the libraries that you have control over, I guess, is that just the county library, public libraries in each county, or is that schools and colleges? I mean, what libraries do you have control over?
Public library systems.
So 82 libraries.
There's 82 counties. There's 53 library systems. So several counties are joint counties, and they form a system together.
Have that, okay. I think you mentioned that a lot of students are now using the libraries because of distance learning and so forth. Do we have any way to track the number of people that are actually using our libraries anymore? Because when I think of libraries, I just think of books and this, that, and the other, and so I just want to make sure that we actually have people using our libraries, and I think we do, but if you could tell us, please.
We do. We get that comment a lot of how libraries are just for books, and I know that's definitely a mentality that has been around for a while. Libraries have changed with the times as well, too. We saw a huge increase in demand for ebooks because people were home. So purchasing the platforms that the libraries can use for their patrons then. So we went with Hoopla, which was a popular platform. So we were able to pay for that service, and then the libraries could allow their patrons to check out books. Another huge area where we saw an increase was we house the talking book services for the state. So for those that are have a disability, any type of physical handicap, if they can't hold a book or look at a book, we ship those out. So it's free shipping. We ship the book on talking books just like it sounds. It's literally like a cassette you put in and listen to. So now you suddenly had all these elderly people in different facilities that can't see their family. You know, some of them going on a year now almost can't visit with their family. So there was a huge increase in the need for those type services as well, which is what we do. Separate from our school, you know, how we do help with education, we still have the underserved populations that we try to handle as well.
One of the issues we dealt with last year was as students were being sent home, having access to internet and so forth. Do the libraries in each county, do they have public Wi-Fi where if a student wanted to drive up and sit in the parking lot, they could download whatever, get on the internet? Is that available to students?
It is available. They were very much able this year to extend, you know, you have E-rate comes into consideration because that's paying for a lot of these funds. And so the ability to turn it on in the parking lots where they were able to come in. Some libraries were open, some were open by appointment, and then some actually put stations outside with a desk where a child could go and sit when they needed access and things. So a lot of them came up with some very creative ways to still continue serving their communities with the needs that each community particularly had. So it was a good thing to see there. Another thing we had a huge request for and we're able to help with is, you know, summer library programs are huge. The kids get out for the summer. You worry about the third grade reading levels and their ability. So we had to, like, last minute go in and do an emergency purchase for a virtual platform to allow summer library program, and it was a huge hit. And those numbers are reported to you every year as well in our performance measures. We have quite a few performance measures, and so you'll see those numbers coming in as well. But that was a very needed last-minute thing where they were able to still continue to offer summer library program to children.
Okay, thank you. Does any member have any questions? Senator Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just two questions. On your form here, you have the increase the funds for health insurance at $105,000, and then up above you have the premiums at $105,000. Did they increase, or is that the total amount?
That's the increase that was done last year. If you know, they increased, I believe it was $11 a person. So it increased in January of last year, $11 a person, and we had to pay 7 months, which was 61,000 we lost in '21. In '22, it's for the full 12 months, so it's 105,336. That's $11 per public library employee, not MLC employee.
And how did that come about that you're having to pay 100% of the health insurance costs for employees?
It's written into Miss Code 251515. It's been there for years.
All right, thank you.
Senator Norwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The $395,000 in federal funds that you lost, or that, what match is required? What match is required there?
So our federal funding comes from the Institute of Museum and Library Services, and they have a formula base that they roll it out, and there is a match where we have to match 34% of our grant award.
Okay. And
Then the maintenance of effort is separate from the match.
okay. With your maintenance of efforts, did you lose? What did you lose in there?
So the way the maintenance of effort works is every year when we use coding and magic to report our expenditures, it tells how much we spent that was related to a federal item. And it rolls continually every 3 years as an average. So for instance, 15, 16, and 17 gives you what 18 would be. And then it continually rolls like that. So for our current fiscal year, we're in 2020, our maintenance of effort is $7.4 million.
7.4. Okay.
And we did not meet that. We fell 19.4% short of meeting that. So what the feds do is they say, okay, well, if you were 19.4% short of meeting it, we're going to cut whatever your award would have been by 19.4%. For us, in our award, that was $350,000.
350,000 that you fell short of the cut.
In '20.
And when the cut occurs, IMLS in DC, they pour it back into the pot, and it's money that is then distributed in a second round to all the states who met their MOE.
Right.
So when we fall short on the MOE, not only do we lose money, but a sister state can get our money.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Senator Norwood. Any other questions by any members? All right. Well, thank you. Got a session that's going to be hopefully just a few months longer from today. So anything comes up, please let me know, and I'll be in touch, or we'll be in touch with any questions that we have. All right?
Great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And for the committee, I think Thursday morning at 9 o'clock, we're looking at having the Department of Education come in. If we convene that morning at 9, we'll have the meeting following adjournment for that day. So that's the plan at this point going forward. So I'll entertain a motion.